Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And first we're going to start with Kievs Direction, with the northern part of the area. The Russians during the previous night conducted a significant number of artillery strikes against the main bridge that goes above the railway station between Pishan and Kislovka. Basically the Russians were attacking the bridge N26. Currently it's unknown whether the Russians managed to destroy the bridge or not, but obviously the Ukrainians were using this territory as the main stronghold, and the Ukrainians, this is the main point, the base of Ukrainian defense in Kislovka-Kotlarovka. The importance of this video is that if we increase the numbers of days since the beginning of months, we see a certain activity in the area. Once again, the Russians attacked this bridge and these Ukrainian positions. A few days ago, probably yesterday, we got update on the 4th of March. We got update of how the Russians were bombing the railway stations in Kislovka, the area that the Russians still haven't managed to capture and establish control over. During the previous months, the Russians made a lot of attempts to capture the territory, but for now we see there is no result. And we see a certain Ukrainian activity on the southern part. On this video, for example, we can see how the Ukrainians were bombing and attacking the Russian infantry along the railways. They control the movements. We see a certain concentration of Russian forces. And we have the videos of bombing of Russian positions to the south of the main defense belt, to the south of Kotlarovka. All these updates, all these events are telling us that probably the Russians are planning to renew offensive operation on this direction. After the Russians established control over Tabaevka and Krakhmalne, up to 2 or 3 months passed since those, let's say, events, maybe 2 months, and now the Russians, after a very long operational pause, made the decision to renew offensive and to finally collapse the defense belt and to move further in direction of Oskol River. Now we are moving to the southern part of Kievs Direction, to Liman area, and today we got additional updates. If you remember, during the previous videos we were talking that the Russians managed to enter the village by the name of Terny and to establish control over the first buildings in the eastern part of the area. But yet we haven't received even a single geolocated confirmation of such a progress. Let's say the only geolocations we received from this area that shows, according to geolocations, the edge Russian positions. But lots of Telegram channels, Twitter channels reports about Russian progress in the area. Furthermore, this morning we got additional update that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation during the previous days, managed to establish control over Terny. And today we got additional report from some Russian sources that some Russian groups, some Russian forces started movements from Terny towards in direction of Yampolovka. And according to the Russians, currently there is a storming process of this small village between Terny and the village by the name of Zarechne Tarskoye. So this is the current situation in the southern Kievs Direction. Now we are moving to Bakhmut-Ivanovskaya area. We continue receiving updates. Today we got additional video with prisoners of war that were captured on this direction. This is the third video in a row that was published during the previous few days, and some mappers continue updating the maps, showing additional progress of the Russians either in Ivanovska and the Russian progress in Bogdanovka. But when talking about geolocations, we have two important geolocations published by the Ukrainian sources. On this video, for example, we can see the Ukrainian FPV drones destroyed Russian T-90 tank that was abandoned somewhere in the fields on the southeast of Ivanovska or to the north of Klishchevka. The tank was abandoned by the Russian forces during the storm operation, during the attempts to capture probably these two strongholds. Let's mark them on map during the process of this area, but very likely the Russian attacks were repelled, or maybe the Russians managed to achieve some results, but for now we still haven't received any updates. Furthermore, in the same area we got another geolocation from the Ukrainian side. Another armored personnel carrier was, let's say, abandoned somewhere in the forest between Ivanovska and Klishchevka, and the Ukrainians, they, as I understand, didn't have possibilities to attack the armored vehicle with the drones, so that's why they start bombing and attacking the area with artillery. So these two videos of concentration of our armored vehicles in this area give us understanding that very likely during the previous 24 hours or 48 hours the Russians conducted an offensive operation this way, trying to cut Klishchevka and Ivanovska, trying to cut this defense belt in two parts, and probably to attack the Ukrainian positions from the south, so something like this. According to information we have received yesterday, the Russians managed to establish control over these farms, but for now we still haven't received any geolocations. Maybe these two updates are connected between each other. Furthermore, starting this morning, we start receiving updates of a very, let's say, active clashes, active assault operation, active phase of assault operation towards the village by the name of Klishchevka. The Russians are storming the area, and very likely today we're going to receive more updates about the progress of the clashes on this direction. Now we are moving to Bakhmut-Artyomov's direction, to Avdiivka direction, sorry. We have lots of updates from the territory. Let's start from the northern part. We still haven't received any details about the clashes in Berdichi, so for now no changes on the ground. We received a significant number of geolocations from the Ukrainian side. For example, on this video we can see how the Ukrainians of 3rd Azov Brigade were attacking the Russian forces along the trenches with FPV drones, which confirms the Russian progress and the Russian control over these trenches and over this forest line. Before that video, this territory, at least this stronghold, used to be under Ukrainian control or in the gray zone, but now we have enough of evidence to change the color of map. For now we still haven't received any updates about the progress or the status of this stronghold, and very likely that this territory is still under Ukrainian control and they still have possibilities to use the territory first of all as, let's say, the edge positions, and to use the tree lines for, let's see, rotation, evacuation, and some process of exchange. No updates about Orlovka, and we have some changes on the map about NoMka. First, the Ukrainians published the video how they managed to destroy another abandoned Russian tank somewhere on the southeast of the village. According to a lot of mappers, most of NoMka was under Russian control or was captured by the Russians, but the recent geolocations published by the Russian side confirms that still there are still a lot of work to do, and not entire NoMka, not even the 30% of NoMka under Russian control. The Russian sources published the video of a multi-launch rocket strike against the central and the northwestern part of the village, which completely confirms that the central part and the northwestern parts of the village are under complete Ukrainian control. So we have already adjusted the map showing this territory as a green zone, but very likely due to the geolocations it will be, let's say, more correct to show this territory under Ukrainian control, and let's say the territories among the fields. So we will adjust the map before the next video. So basically, according to geolocations, currently the clashes are taking place in the central part in this area. Now we are moving further to Marinka direction. We have a lot of reports and geolocations from the territory. According to information we have, the Russians managed to establish control over and in Krasnogorovka, over the Lermontova and Железнодорожные streets. To be more precise, according to the Russian sources, the Russians entered these streets, and we have already discussed this in the previous update. Furthermore, the Russians managed to maintain their positions along the railways, and if we summarize updates we have currently, this is the Russian control in Krasnogorovka, or at least something like this. For now we still haven't received any geolocations and videos confirming this progress, but very likely this is something like this happens in Krasnogorovka. Now the Russians will try to completely force the Ukrainians to fall back from the southern part below the railways, and after that they will think, or maybe they have already planned what to do next. Additional updates are coming from Georgievka. The sources are saying that the Russians continue offensive operation, advancing, and now they control something like this in the village without any geolocated confirmation, and this report was also confirmed by Rybary. By Syriac and by Rybary. Additional reports are coming from the area between Pobeda and Krasnogorovka after the Russians established control over the part of Georgievka and managed to secure the area in the vicinity of Pobeda. Currently, the Russians are trying to attack and to storm this area, and this is, let's say, the main priority of the Russian armed forces for the next, let's say, sprint of the clashes on Marinka direction. To capture this territory, this attack and this progress will allow the Russians to reduce the line of combat contact. The current length of the line of combat contact is around, let's say, 10 kilometers, but if the Russians are able to cut this salient, the distance between the Russian positions and the Russian forces will be less than 5 kilometers, so twice less, and it will allow the Russians to release additional forces and to use them for further offensive operation, either in Georgievka direction and Konstantinovka-Novomikhailivka area. Now let's move to Novomikhailivka. The Russians continue offensive operation. There are lots of territories that are covered with the fog of war. The more mappers confirmed additional Russian progress in the central part, but today, this morning, we start receiving updates of Russian offensive operations towards the northern part, and currently, according to information we received from the ground, the Russians are trying to storm and to establish complete control over this territory, over this part of Marinka, including the fields, strongholds and fortifications among the fields, the farms on the northern part. So this is the, let's say, the primary goal and main objective of the Russians for the 6th of March of 2024. And very likely today we're going to receive more updates about additional Russian progress in this area. Now we are moving further to Rabotina area, to Zaporozhye direction. We have two geolocations from the territory. On this video we can see how the Ukrainians managed to discover and to destroy the Russian personnel armored carrier in the central part, probably as a result of FPV drone strike. Currently, it's very difficult to understand what kind of information this video provides us, either the Russian control or the Russian presence in the central part, or the Ukrainians' attempts to clear the territory from the Russian armored vehicles, but because they can't enter the territory, so they try to do this in a distance. When talking about geolocations and corrections on map, the most important geolocation is coming from this territory. On this video, we will not watch the video due to casualties among the soldiers. On this video, we can see the FPV drone strikes against the Russian forces in the Verbova area. If you remember the previous configuration of the front line, the Russian edge positions were a little bit to the south, and now we see certain Russian progress. And now we can understand the main Russian objectives on this direction. The Russians, after a few attempts to storm Rabotina, made the decision to change their tactics, and currently the Russians are trying and to establish control over the fields between Verbova and Rabotina and to capture the territories like this. And if the Russians are able to do this, we can say that Ukraine positions in Rabotina will appear in something like a cauldron and basically will be forced to fall back. So now the Russians made a decision to handle the fields, and after that they will move their focus to Rabotina. Now we are moving to the Odessa. During the previous night, the Russians, not just Odessa, according to information we have, during the previous night, the Russians conducted massive drone attacks against Ukraine. All over the entire Ukraine was covered with the strikes. There were 3 attacks in Odessa, 2 attacks in Sumy, 1 attack in Kharkov, 1 attack in Pokrovsk, 3 attacks in Starokonstantinov, and 1 attack in Ternopil. If you remember the previous, according to our experience, if you remember the previous, let's say, cases, events, previous times when the Russians attack Ukraine with drones, that was something like a first wave. So now the Russians are using Geran drones with the purpose to discover Ukrainian air defense, to discover Ukrainian weak points. The next few days, there might be the same story. A few days in a row, the Russians will try to attack the territory with drones, and after that, there are very high chances that the Russians will start massive missile attack with the purpose to completely shut down Ukraine, and this might mean the beginning of the next offensive by the Russian forces. So we'll see what is going to be next. And furthermore, we got additional updates from the Western countries. By the end of the second year of the special military operation, the Polish authorities, military authorities, made a decision to create the Polish drone troops. So imagine yourself, just after 2 years of clashes, the European Union, made a decision to create drone forces. Of course, it's too late. And of course, the European forces will be able to get the necessary level of experience, but it's going to be very difficult in comparison with the Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. Furthermore, we got more updates from the western part of Ukraine. As soon as spring comes, now we see that the weather becomes better, and now there are more possibilities for the Ukrainians to avoid mobilization by crossing the border with Romania. And the Ukrainians start running away from Ukraine using the borders, using the mountain areas on the border between Romania Romania, Hungary, and Ukraine, and the Ukrainians, let's say, border forces detachment start publishing more and more updates about additional Ukrainians who were captured somewhere in this area. So now, as soon as the spring and summer comes, we're going to receive more and more videos of more attempts from the Ukrainian side to cross the borders, and to illegally, of course, and to run away from Ukraine. It's going to be rivers, mountain areas, forests, and so on. And probably this year we're going to receive a significant number of such videos. Very interesting updates coming from Czech Republic. The president of Republic told us that he's very less, for example, he, as I understand from his words, he is he doesn't have anything against to start war with Russia and to send forces in Ukraine. And he asked, first of all, he discussed like this question to send forces to Ukraine and not to stop European Union in the question if it's possible. Furthermore, according to information we have, the European Commission has declared that the bloc will begin to seek ways to change Europe's arms industries to a war economy mode. Also, after 2 years of the special military operation, I'll remind you that in the summer of 2022, the Russians have already started this process, and now it's already summer of 2024, and the European Union is just going to start doing this. Additional updates are coming from the Washington, from the United States of America. As you know, the Nuland will be made a decision to not the United States authorities took a decision to replace Nuland. Nuland, this is the woman that everything started with. If you remember, in 2024 and 2014, she was one of the responsible persons who made the military coup in Ukraine after Ukraine became, let's say, the NATO and pro-NATO proxy. And now this woman is leaving her position for some reasons, and some sources are saying that Nuland will be replaced temporarily as under secretary by another career diplomat, John Bass, a former ambassador to Afghanistan who oversaw the U.S. withdrawal from the country. Maybe this guy has a very good experience. Maybe this is also attempts to replace one person by experienced person before withdrawal position from Ukraine. Maybe. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you, we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.